Hello, this is Adore from BricsMaven. In this video, we're building a section from scratch. We'll be adding all the elements to the page, and we'll be adding and tagging the elements with tokens, and we'll be building a 3-column card or 3-column grid with 3 cards. And I'm just going to show you guys how to do that, so that you can also gain some confidence to build your own blocks from scratch. So without further ado, let's get in. So we start out with a frame. Just draw the frame, and I'll just call this a 3-column grid section, and this is just a random shape. Obviously, I will then make sure that this is a auto layout. So I'm going to add auto layout. You do that with Shift A, and then we go to our frame section here, and we set this to fixed width. We go to the width, we apply a variable, just search for width, and then you get the desktop and the content width. Select desktop width. So now we have a desktop width of 1600. So now the next thing I need to do is I need to create the content, right? So this will be our container, and this one I will also give it a content width. So we search for width, and then we can add the content width. So now we have a content width of 1400, and we have a section of 1600. So now we want to center the container, and this is how we center the container. We first remove all these values you see here. You don't need to apply any gap unless you have multiple containers, then you can apply a gap on your section. As for the spacing, we search for padding on the section and give it the padding XL. For the top and bottom, search for section and give it the section space XXL. As for the positioning, how we want to align the item of the section, we want to center it. We can center it in the center, or we can center it on top, depending on how. Since it's just one container, you can center it at the top, or you can also center it in the middle. It doesn't really matter. It does matter if you want to keep our center in the middle. So just go for the middle, and now we transform our container to an auto layout too, because we need that. So our section is set and our container is set. So now we can proceed with adding. If this was bricks, we'll be adding 2 blocks, or in this case frames. So I'm just going to add a frame. I'm going to duplicate it. Don't worry if your container breaks, right? You just go back. It does that for some reason. So I set it to width. It responds to the content added to it. I think maybe because it was set to fix, so that's weird. Anyways, just put it back and you're good to go. So I'm gonna turn this into auto layout. Also turn this to auto layout. This will be our intro section, and this will be our grid container. Okay, so we want it to be a row. I'm going to set everything to 0 again. We don't want a spacing left or right, and we don't want a spacing on top. Okay, so we have both our grid, in this case our items in our container. I will then add a container gap, apply variable container gap, and then add it there, so there's some spacing between both elements. In our intro section, I wanted to fill the whole container. So on the frame, we can set this to fill. So this is fill on the width, and the height is still hog. I wanted to hog our contents. So let's add some text to it. So this will be, oh wait, I made a mistake. Let's do that again. Let's add a text, and this will be the accent heading. Now for some reason it automatically added a variable. Let's remove it. We don't want this. Neither did I even ask for this. all this stuff. And I'm gonna just duplicate this. This will be the heading, and this will just be body text. Once again, we set this to row. We add a content gap here, no spacing required. Okay, so this will be, this is our long headline. I said long. And this is the body text. So I just need to, let me go and steal some body text. Let me see if I can get it from somewhere. You know what, let me just take this text that is here. I can definitely use it. No, it's gonna copy over the tokens. So how do I do this now? Wait, let me just grab some text somewhere. Okay. Yeah, I think this is good. Just add this here. Why? Okay. It did not copy my text. That's weird. Let me go back. Okay, let me try this again. Thank you. Let's try it again. Okay, there we go. As you can see, there's some overflow because it's set to hog content. So we need to put it on fill container so that it will wrap the text like that. So this should also be set to fill. Okay. Fill. Okay, so now this is all wrong, obviously. So now I'm going to add some tokens, right? So I want this to be text S, which is small, regular. This should be a H2, right? And this should be text M. There we go. So now everything is set correctly. We have a content gap between it. And now all we need to do is work on our grid container. So our grid container should get a grid gap and no spacing is required on the top, on the sides. I'm going to just duplicate this and say this the card. A card should have a content gap instead of a grid gap. A content should have some spacing. You can't see anything yet, but you'll soon start seeing stuff. Spacing of, I'll just go for 32, and on the top also 32, or maybe 48. No, that's way too large. 48. I'll give it a stroke. Go for our neutral light. So we have a stroke now. I'll give it a radius. Just styling up my card, a radius of 32. And maybe also a shadow effect. And a fill. No fill is needed. Okay, so I'm going to copy my header, paste that in the card, paste my text, copy my text, place that in the card. It's placed off screen now because it's set to a column, so we need to set this to row. So that's good. Okay, this needs to be set to hog and fill. And this also is fill. This should be hog and fill. Okay, and this should be set. My card should be set to hog content so that it gets it's only as high as the amount of content inside of it. That's just the whole idea here. So now the next thing is I need a image. Let's just pull an image. Place image. Well, I'll just place a rectangle because you can actually convert that to an image here. So the rectangle can become an image, and obviously to go into, maybe I can put just put an image here, and I'll say fill container. As you can see, we're slowly building up our card and tagging the elements with tokens. So this should get the same radius as my card, for some uniformity. I think my card was 6. Let me check. It was 32. Okay, correct. So our image is also 32. We have a container gap on our card. We have our spacing. We have our heading. Okay. Okay. And now I'm going to add a button. So how do we add a button? Go to Assets, and there we have our buttons. All we need to do is just drag it and just drop it. So there's our button. Was this a small button? I want a medium. I want a solid M button, and I'll just call this call to action. So our button is set. Let me go back to my layers, select my card. My grid container is now set to a column, horizontal, but I want it to, no, it is correct. Horizontal is correct. So let's duplicate it 3 times. Our card is set to fixed, that's why it's overflowing. So let's select 3 cards and set them to fill container. So now we have our 3 cards, as you can see. And this is how you actually create a card from scratch. I think I missed something here. I set a shadow, but we can't see it, so we need to remove clip content so that it's not. Clip content is this equivalent to overflow hitting. So let's remove that. Let me see. I think it's also shadow. Wait. Okay, wait. I need to set a background. In this case, white. There we go. I didn't have a background, that's why it was not showing. It's not even because of the clip content. Let me see if I put. No. Yeah. My bad there. So we have a card here. As you can see, it has turned out to look pretty nice. Just one more thing, you could run into an issue like this. Let's say you have less content here, so you get this, right? This is uneven. This does not look nice. So there are 2 things you can do. We could say, hey, let's group the first three elements together. So this will be, I'll just call this top, and we can add a content gap to it. And then on the card, we set this to the height instead of hog to fill container, so that it's always as long as the other cards. And then on the button, not on the button, sorry, on the card, we set this to auto. So how do we set it to auto? There are 2 things you can do. You can double click here. So to set this to auto, so it's the same as margin top on your button, but the card itself is set to auto, or you could just come here and click auto, right? So now it's as long, but it's still not looking the way that you want it to look, just because the images are not on the same height. So what we could do is maybe say, okay, I'm going to bring this up, make sure that your image is on top, and this way to look more balanced. Obviously there's no texture, but at least your titles are on the same page, on the same line, sorry, and your text is on the same line. Now there might be more issues where your title may be only 1 line, right? And then now it also looks uneven, but there are ways to overcome this. You could also say like, okay, my heading is actually 2 paragraphs long. I don't really opt for stuff like this, because this would not be an ideal way of working, but sure is a possible way you could mitigate this. You could just give this a fixed height, so there'll be a fixed height on your titles, and that way you can make sure that everything is uniform. So in this case, let me put it here. Yeah, then I think, wait, I'm not sure. I think this was maybe the same height, something like this. Yeah, something like this. Okay, but let me just put that back, the text, and put the heading back. And that's basically how you build a section from scratch. And then we could move on to the mobile version. Obviously we need to create the mobile version. I will begin with this. Set this to mobile. This is already okay. I don't need to do much here. I might bring down the height a little bit, bring down the padding to 24, and instead of a column, I'll set this to row. And then all I just need to do is make some tweaks, because now this is way too high. So we set this to hot content, and yeah, you are basically done. So this will be my mobile version, and this will be my desktop version. So now almost all elements have been tagged, but I noticed that I did not change this. This should not be, it should be a H3. This should be a H3. So even before I made it, turned it into mobile, I should have changed this. I overlooked it. And yeah. And if when it also comes to the colors, we have to make sure that we also add the right colors too. So on the fill, I would say this is a heading color, and this should be body. Do this the same thing here, and this too, so to give us more control and to help us to be able to manage our block. There we go. Okay, also here, before I forget, same thing, body text. Our heading also needs color, and the accent heading needs the accent heading. So we've tagged everything. Let me just do this again. Mobile mode. Put this to row. Set this to hot content, and we're done. So now everything is working as it should. And this is how you build from scratch. Oh, reduce this. And we're done. So I hope this helps you build out your own blocks. I just chose something simple to build. There are more complex things that you could build, obviously, and I must say challenging things, obviously. But this is just showing you how you can use the tokens. I did not even use. Yeah, I used the color. Obviously, the background is white. You could also added a color here, right? It's neutral, and then also here, add it here. Neutral light, ultra light. Yeah, so we have a color, right? So this just makes it look even much better. Yeah, so you can basically see you can build from scratch, and this will definitely help you build your own blocks. Just play with it, try and build your own things. Try and just play with the file, play with the tokens, and see how far you come. Add your own tokens. By doing those things, you will just get more proficient and better with it, and you'll be able to do more cool stuff with it. This was the end of the video. I hope you guys learned a lot, and if you have any questions whatsoever, just send me a message and I will get back to you. For now, have a nice day, and see you. Bye bye.